In this video, I'm going to walk you through the ConvertSnap platform. So the first thing is that once you are logged in, you'll be landing on your dashboard. That's what this is. There's a few things on the dashboard that you need to know about. First of all, there's the install script. Now this is, when you click it, a pixel right here that you're going to place in the header of your website. This can go pretty much on any type of page or site you have access to drop code. So if it's WordPress, you put it in the header. If you have a ClickFunnels page or a Convertry page or an Insta page, you can put this anywhere you have the ability to. I mean, Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, etc. So this is what's going to be able to communicate to your website that you are interested in having the pop-up, the social proof piece show up on a particular page. And you can go ahead and here and once it's installed, check whether it's actually being read from that particular site. So that's this. Let's go back to the dashboard. And you want to create a campaign. So campaigns are kind of the umbrella piece for each website that you're creating, or subdomain, excuse me, that you're creating. You have the ability to give it a name, so we'll just call this name here, and then you have the website, and that's whatever you want the domain to be. Now it can be all subdomains of that, or it can be, just one subdomain. You get to define that. In this case, we'll just leave it at this. Again, this is just a test, so it doesn't really matter. Now over here, you'll see that you have the ability to edit what we just did, change the custom branding. I'll explain what that is in a moment, but this is where you can change your brand from the ConvertSnap brand on all of the pop-ups that show up. And then from within here, just click on it, you have the ability then to create notifications. And you can create as many different notifications as you'd like for each campaign. So let's go ahead and click that, and you'll see that there's a whole bunch of different types of notifications here on this page. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that you create a name when you do so, and then you're going to decide which of these types of notifications you want. I'll give you a quick overview of what they look like. So this is an informational bar where you just have some information that people can put there. This is an image. It's going to show a large image, but you can have a much smaller image with a call to action button. You can collect information here. So if you want to have a quick call to action and then say enter your email address. By the way, this right here is the thing that I was showing you earlier in terms of the branding. You can change this piece right here. Coupon. So if you'd like to offer a coupon right there, and then a button bar. And this is very similar. A button there. There's a bunch of different places that you can make sort of email data collection. There's one. There's another. It's very clean. A general sort of call to action. This is a variation on the image one that we saw earlier. If you want to just have some header text like this, they're really just different looks of the similar concept, right? Connect with us, another information, right? Flash sale, and this can all be used as a clickable button, a coupon, and it's really just designed to say, hey, we have a special offer. Here's what the coupon is called, etc. A live counter, so you can actually set this to say there are this many people on the website at this time. Another email collector. You can show the latest conversions. This one's a little tricky because it does involve some additional coding on the page. You need to know how to drop in some conversion code for a webhook. And I'll show that to you in a moment as well. Conversion counters, again, similar thing. Video, you can have a video pop up on the page if you'd like. Social share, that's a fairly straightforward one. random reviews. Now this one you actually need to manually input the reviews. So if you're getting reviews on Google or some other platform, just take a quick snapshot of the details, and then you can paste them in here. All right, then there's the emoji feedback. Now this one is sort of interesting, but not the most helpful one, because it doesn't give you the ability to send people where you'd like them to go after they click on one of these, but you can get an overall reading on people simply by the statistics. I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. After this, there's cookie notifications. So if you want to have a pop-up that alerts people to the fact that you have cookies tracking them on the website. Score feedback, this is very similar to the emojis that we just saw a moment ago. And then a collection request, so let's say you want to have somebody give you a call, or you want to have their phone number collected so you can call them back. Then you can shoot this contact info over to your cell phone and call them, or something like that. And then finally a countdown timer and data collector. Let me show you what I meant by this emoji and score feedback, because it's kind of useful. So I actually gave it a name called sample right there, and you can see you can customize the content here. You can customize what it says down below. I can set up where this appears. I'll show you that in more detail in a moment. I can display it for a certain amount of time. I can have the close button on or off, and then I can customize the look of it. But what I can't do is I can't say when somebody clicks 1, send them here. When somebody clicks 5, send them here. So all that happens is after that is clicked, it goes away, and then the data is stored here in the statistics. So not the most helpful on this one. There's a couple of others that have sort of interesting customizations you need to just be aware of, because while this is ideal for some things, it's less well thought out for others. The one thing that I do like, so there's the random review. Go ahead and look at that one. This one, as I said, you need to collect the data and put it in manually. And so you click import data, and then you would define these pieces. So the person's name, their review, the URL of the image. So if this is a Google review, you can actually just right-click over the image and get the URL of it, and then whatever their rating was. If it's not a star rating, you can just leave it blank, and then it won't show stars. So that's another example of how to set this up. So let's take a look at how one of these with an email collector. Let's see, this is the request collector. I think this was the phone one. Yep, okay. So we'll go ahead and hit create. And you'll see that there's a few different pieces to the puzzle here. So in this case, there's like a little support person, and you give them the name, and then you say where they work. So it says right here, John, support team, an image URL. So again, if you'd like this to be your image and your name, and say I can call you, all of that sort of stuff you can customize. And then you have the content. So any questions, it could be anything that you want to say. Would you like a call back? Let us know where to get back to you. And then they need to put in a phone number and the text for what the button says, right? So call me back. And then is there any sort of agreement that you want down at the bottom, privacy policy, that they have to check a box before they submit? So that's that piece. Then the trigger is where this shows up. You can define it to show up on every page on that domain. It can be on a page that meets these certain qualifications. So you can type a partial domain and starts with or ends with or contains, etc. We'll just leave it there. When does that pop up? Does it pop up immediately? Is there a delay? Does it pop up on exit intent when somebody is trying to leave the browser and change the page, or when they've scrolled down the page a certain percentage? So those are your choices there. How frequently does it get displayed? Is it displayed all the time, once per visit session, or once per browser session? And then is it showing up on both mobile and full screen devices, or is it just showing up on one? And so you can toggle those on or off. The display, how long does it display? You can leave it to just display for a few seconds and then go away, or if you'd like it to stay there, it says set to -1 to display forever. Of course, they can close that if you give them the option by having the display close button toggled on. And then where does it show up? And depending on the item that you've chosen here, you may have a more limited list than this, but this is the complete list for this particular one. Now we're going to customize it. So you can change the colors, you can change a background pattern if you want. This one has a few different patterns built into it. I think, for the most part, I find them a little bit too busy, and therefore they kind of take away. But you could change the background color if you want. So if you want to, I don't know what that is. Let's see if it's actually a color. Actually, we kind of get rid of the none. Okay, 3 and 5. Okay. So I don't think that's a real color, but I know that this one is because this is a color I use. So F17420. And I think I may have to hit update in order to see that. Okay, yeah, so you can see you can change the background color, for example. Let's go back to customize. And then you can adjust things like the border radius, do you want shadows, and then when it is set up to not be there present at the beginning, you can actually set up some very basic animations for it to slide in or slide down, and then the same thing when it goes out. If somebody clicks the the go away button, you have the ability to do that there as well. And then finally, on this one is the data. And this is something that you're going to need to probably use a platform like Zapier for, but I'll bring that up in just a moment. Because here, what you're going to do is you're going to use a webhook. And this is a little bit advanced, but the basic idea is that when somebody enters something here, and then they hit the button, you have to tell the software, what do you want me to do with that information? So let's actually jump over to Zapier and I'll show you how that works. So here we are in Zapier. If you don't have an account, you can set up a free one for this. There are paid accounts for more complex things, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to create or make a Zap, create a Zap wherever you find the sort of the starting point. And what we're going to do here is it's basically a if this happens, then that happens kind of scenario. So what you're looking for is the webhooks by Zapier. You can also just type in webhook and it's going to show up. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit webhooks by Zapier. You need a trigger event. In this case, what we're doing is we're trying to catch raw hook and then hit continue. And it's going to generate this webhook. This is the URL that you're going to copy. And then you're going to go back over to ConvertSnap and paste that in here. And then this is actually just saying, what is the thing that's being sent over. And so we'll go ahead and hit update. All right, so now we have that all set up here to capture this. Now, in order to do the next step in Zapier, you actually need to install this someplace and then run a test data capture through it. So you have to, have it load on a page and type something in and click the button. And then what that will do on Zapier is it will allow you to do this next step, which is to test it, to test your trigger. I'm going to go ahead and hit it and then hit skip test. Skip test, yeah, they don't want you to skip the test, obviously, and then hit continue. Now, what it's going to ask you to do next is to say, okay, what would you like me to do once I've captured that information? And you can do a number of things. You can add somebody to an email list. You can send something to a Google Sheet. But you could also, in the case of that particular form, you can say, let's see if I have, you can have an SMS message sent to your phone. You can have an email sent to you. So there's email by Zapier, and then have it send an email your way. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do. In that case, if you want a call right away, you have the ability to capture that information. Send a text message is probably how I would set that up. But there's a whole bunch of different options that you might consider. And that's the same thing for email capture or any other data that you're capturing here inside of ConvertSnap. All right, let's take a look at one more option here. I'm going to just jump back to the dashboard, and we'll jump in here and let's look at creating one more notification. Okay, what we're going to do this time is we're going to find just a basic button option. We'll do that. Hit create. And then here, all we're doing is we are sending people from this to wherever we want to send them by clicking the button. So all you're doing is you're changing your text here. So by the way, you can use emojis. So you can go over to a website like emojipedia.org and find emojis that you'd like to include there. That's an option for you. So all you're doing is you're changing this text here. You're changing the text that's on the button, and then you are telling it where do you want people to go when they click the button. That's fairly straightforward as well. So I did want to show you one more example, and that's when you are collecting data that you're actually going to be showing real-time conversion information. So here's how many people just bought, that sort of thing. There is a little bit more technical stuff you need to do. So here's an example, latest conversions. This will show social proof, or the conversion counter, how many people recently came through the buying process or the registration process, and so let's just show you what that looks like, because this actually is something that you may need to engage somebody who has a little bit more technical knowledge. So again, very similar setup here. Your message that you want in the last whatever period of time, if they click on it, a URL that you want to send them to, the various triggers. But this is the place that is important, is that there is a webhook trigger here that is set up that you need to install wherever you are having your final conversion take place that you want to report here. And so that requires that you then set this up. You define what is that end point, what is like the thank you page after they have registered, or the page that they go to after they have made a purchase. And so what you're doing here is you need to install, very similar to what we just did in Zapier, you need to install a notification to this URL saying this conversion just took place, and that's then going to put this in here. And so you can see the details are right here. Call the endpoint to let us know, and then we'll do the rest. The call must be a post request and can have any form data parameters. So again, you want to engage somebody who just knows the technical process for setting this up. But basically, it's pretty much like I showed you in Zapier, and there are so many different permutations of what you might be doing here that me showing you an example is not going to be all that useful. You can actually have multiple rules here as well. So if you have different pages that they go to as a thank you, etc., you can swap those out or add additional ones. So that's the basics of the notification process. The one last thing I said I was going to show you earlier was the branding. Remember I said custom branding. This is where you would just add your name for the brand and then whatever URL. And in most of these notifications, like I said earlier, you can actually shut off the branding option altogether, so you don't necessarily even need to include that if you don't want. But this is where you would change it on the campaign level. So I hope this was a useful introduction to ConvertSnap. It's a pretty cool piece of software. As I said, there, as I have been going through the platform, a couple of shortcomings in terms of its ability to redirect people where I want them to go sometimes. But for the most part, with all of these different tools that are in here, there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do, and I hope you enjoy.